知らない私の秘密の夢胸に秘めていると時々切なくなるけど光の中のメロディーね不思議優
Good evening, everyone. Hello. Apologize for the little delay. We had a slight difficulty with the stream. So it is on a YouTube, but it was supposed to be also on Estonian World and Postimees. But we had a problem this time, so apologize. But everyone who's watching it, you can watch it on YouTube. Just open the link, which we posted on Astonishing Evenings Facebook page. So very warm welcome. My name is Silver Tamber. I'm the chief editor of Estonian World, which is an English language online magazine. And this is Astonishing Evenings' 7th event. Just a little brief about Astonishing Evenings. Actually, can you raise your hands who have been here before? Okay, quite a few people. So those who haven't been, Astonishing Evenings was started last spring, by 4 like-minded people. So it is organized by people to people. We are all very different people, but what is common is that we all lived abroad. I lived in the United Kingdom, in London. My colleagues, Nele and Reelika, they lived in Copenhagen and Germany. And what we missed in Tallinn was the kind of international events where Estonians and expats both come together. And so it's like a two-way street. Estonians can learn about expats, expats can learn about more about Estonia. So far we had events about Estonian working culture, religion, history, also local politics. And tonight's event, Lucky 7, is about women. So the topic is it easy to succeed as a woman in Estonia? And as you may know or may not know, when it comes to gender pay gap, Estonia is the last in Europe, in entire Europe. Gender pay gap is the largest. And also, if you look at that World Economic Forum or United Nations reports, when it comes to gender equality, Estonia is not doing particularly well. It is 2 years ago, I remember I published an article about it. Estonia was, I think, 62nd or 63rd in gender equality among some African countries. So tonight we will take a closer look at the Estonian women's chances to succeed in the country. We will also look into some numbers. And first off, we have 5 distinguished guests. Liisa Pakosta, Kathleen Nagli, Mari-Liis Lind, Oksana Tandit, and Karen Burns. First off, we have got Liisa Pakosta. There's probably no one else who knows more about the situation, the rights of women in present-day Estonia, because Liisa works for the Estonian government as the Gender Equality and Equal Treatment Commissioner. She has previously also been a member of the Estonian Parliament and head of the Estonian delegation at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Last but definitely not least, she's also a mother of 5 children. So Liisa will talk about this current situation. Then we will also ask one question from the audience, so you can get to know each other around the tables. So we call it a little group work. And then we have a little break, and after that we'll have a panel with Kathleen, Mari-Liis, Oksana, and Karen. So please welcome Liisa.
Thank you so much for this possibility here. And first I have to excuse for my bad English language. My oldest daughter started to write her blog in English language, and her heading is that I write it in English because I want my parents to study some English at last. But I have 20 minutes, and of course it's not enough to go through all the gender equality questions. So I have picked some of the facts. And if you ever, I very much hope that you will have a lot of questions so I can talk about these facts that you are interested in. First, let's start from the history. If we take northern countries, then the archaeological finds in the northern countries actually show, and also it includes Estonia, that most probably there has been a matrilinear society. If you look outside, and if you think that last time we could gather something to eat was in mid-September, so historically everybody who lived or survived the winter was extremely valuable. So the equality question was pretty much about that you have to use everybody who lives in your house. So everybody who could work was very extremely valuable. And this has been also thought to be the reason that, for example, Estonian language and Finnish language are gender neutral languages. So there is, of course, a lot of theory, and this is very hard to say why one language is gender neutral and the other is not, but this is one of the possible explanations. And if we go back to the folk songs, so the folk songs carry the old way of thinking. Then we find in historical folk songs, quite many folk songs when Estonian women have been singing about their love towards men. So it was, for a long time, it was not understood by the researchers, especially those who came from the Baltic German areas, that it can't be true that there is a society where women sing about their feelings of love, and they do it openly. But our folk songs show that it has been here in this way. And also if we look at the Lübeck city law, which was the law for the city of Tallinn approximately for 600 years, for example, the kids who were born outside from marriage inherited exactly in the same way than the kids who were born inside the marriage. And also we can find from the court issues that although Estonian peasants were not free, they were owned by the manor owners up to the beginning of the 19th century, but although the women had a right, for example, when their owner tried to sexually harass them, they had a right to go to the court and ask for the right that they could not be harassed in any way. So the history is quite promising. But then if we come to today, Estonia is at the top of very many wonderful charts in the world. But yeah, if we are looking for the red lines, it's the gender equality. What happened in between, nobody exactly knows, but just some facts. Estonian girls succeed very well at schools. Actually, this is the same for all developed countries. Boys drop out from the ground school twice as often as girls, and we are one of the record holders in the world. So for every male graduating from the university, there are 2 female. So our women are among most educated women in the world. At the same time, we have more than 11% of women with a university degree who work, what was the term now? Who work as unskilled labor. So, and approximately 3% of men who have university degree and work as unskilled labor. So something is wrong. If you start with a great success at the universities, then you end up with the biggest gender pay gap, and you end up doing an unskilled labor. There have been studies of the self-belief of Estonian girls. Actually, it responds to the similar studies in other countries that girls in developed countries think that they are less good or less skilled at mathematics and so on. But there was an interesting study made by Tallinn University recently, and they asked boys and girls at Estonian schools how do they evaluate each other's each other's numbers, what they get at school, so how good the other pupils are in their studies. And when boys evaluated other boys in their class, they always found something very positive. Yeah, he has low marks, but he's extremely good in football. Or, yeah, he misses a lot of lessons, but he makes very good jokes. And when boys evaluated girls at Estonian schools, they were quite, they gave the numbers what the girls actually got from the school. When girls evaluated boys, it was similar, so the results were the same that were in the class books, but when girls evaluated other girls, they were quite negative. So don't put it together with the gender pay gap, but actually we find similar evaluation shifts in the studies done in other countries, and male evaluate each other much more in a positive way. So after school, the things get worse. The gender pay gap is, according to Eurostat, 25.3%. So it means that a female or a woman who wants to earn the same annual salary as a man in Estonia earned up to the 21st of December last year has to work up to the 2nd of April. So this is the time what the woman has to work more to earn the same salary as the man earned at the end of last year. And the reasons of this have been studied, not enough, but it's approximately only 1/6 of the gender pay gap that we can explain with data like differences in the working field, differences in how long you have been working, and also the gaps in the working. So Estonia has this very long maternity leave or parental leave, and it's very hard in some areas, or if we take the population number for the most of the parents, to get the kindergarten place in the right time. And Estonian education choices are extremely segregated. So there we also top in the world, or we are in the leading group. So girls tend to choose these areas where mostly women work, and of course the general pay level there is lower. And boys tend to choose the areas where the men work and where the average salary level is higher. It doesn't help very much Estonian economy. For example, there was a recent study by Tartu University, which was asked by Skype Estonia, a famous company, and Skype asked what is the reason that so many students drop out from the university studies when they have started studying IT. And it was the male students who dropped out, and they said that they started to study it because it's boys who work at the IT. I am a boy, I work at the IT. So, and this is quite often the same reason for the girls, but then if you don't have a real interest towards the subject you are learning, you are not such a successful. And if we take the salary gap, as it was said, the wealth gap is even bigger. So, and if the salary gap narrows, so salary gap number is smaller and smaller each year, the wealth gap goes wider. So men have more wealth year after year than women. For example, we have the smallest pension gap in the whole European Union. So men and women earn approximately the same pension. But 1/3 of women aged over 65 live in relative poverty, and it's 12% of men. So the difference is nearly 3 times, although the pension level is nearly the same. And to end up my short introduction, and then hoping for your questions, one more interesting paradox. Estonian women work mostly full-time. We are topping in the world with full-time working women. This actually explains a little bit this gender pay gap, because statistics at Eurostat level and OECD level includes only full-time working women. It does not include women who work part-time or who are fully dependent from the husbands. But Estonian women work full-time. It's Swedish women who work more than us. And then there is a huge shift from the retirement age, because the life standard at the retirement age would be so low. So Estonian women are leading in the world, working after 65 years. So that's the promising future. And now your questions.
Thank you. So just raise your hands who wants to ask a question, and please introduce yourself quickly as well. We've got a couple of team members around here, and we'll come to you with the microphone.
Thank you. It was very interesting data. But as you are from ministry, I would like to know if there are some projects or plans how to vanish this difference in the pay gap, because for a country who tries to be so Scandinavian-oriented, women in Scandinavia are, of course, everybody knows they are very empowered, they do have same rights, etc. So this is something, if Estonia wants to go there, needs to keep up too.
Sorry, quickly, just out of interest, where are you from yourself?
I'm from Czech Republic.
Czech Republic.
We are not much better than you.
There is not one thing that can be done, but there is a list of things. If we take the reasons, there are 2 huge reasons. One is the caretaking responsibilities, which are very unfairly on the shoulders of women. And Estonia is the only country in the European Union where the law says that the family members have to take all the care of each other. So there is approximately, depending on how you count, approximately 40,000 women out from the working market, or doing part-time jobs, or taking more simple works, only because of the care responsibilities. So one of the ways to solve this is much more help from the local governments and also from the states, that you have the kindergarten places, that you have some help when you have a child with disability, and that you have help when you have a family member or an elderly family member who needs some care, and you don't have to drop your working to take care. The other area, which actually makes the bigger share, is this stereotypes. So as said, it starts already from the kids, and it's very hard to say why the Estonian number is so much higher with the gender pay gap, because according to the studies, we find similar stereotypes in all the countries. Both men and women think that women are not so good at work, that they have to take care of their children and other family members, and that they are not so valuable as men, if I put it very shortly. But whatever studies we make, we come to this result. And it's both the male bosses but also the female bosses who act in the same way. And the third area where just now the bills are actually changed is we had a very, very, very strict parental leave system, so that you were not, you couldn't, during 1.5 years, you couldn't earn more than the minimum salary of last year. Otherwise, you would lose your support you got from the state. And that meant that women left the working market for long periods. To change this has also been the idea from the European Commission that you actually can't afford such long periods out from the working market. It's not good for the mother, it's not good for the child, it's not good for the family, it's not good for the society. And this has been now, is now slowly changed, or on the change. But there is an interesting thing, what we have been against or supporting actually is that there is a difference. So now from 2020 there will be introduced 1 month only for fathers. If a father gets this month that is only for fathers, the father can earn as much as he wants during this 1 month. And it's 92% it's women otherwise home with the kids, and there is this income limit. So our office was that it's a very good system that you made for fathers, just please extend it to everybody, mothers included.
Question here. Okay.
Hi, Ede from Estonia. It was a really curious fact you mentioned about the girls assessing other girls quite negatively at school. So I was wondering, does it get any worse or better once they grow older? Because I know that in media, for example, the female journalists tend to use less women as sources because they want to be taken more seriously themselves. And also, did the survey or the study look for the reasons why are the girls so critical towards each other? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good question. There is very few studies in Estonia on this, so this was actually the first one. We know that there are quite many international studies, or studies from other countries, which come to the same result. So that there's no difference between male and female bosses. And if you go to Lean In, then there is, for example, a video lecture trying to explain that those women who get the leading positions, they explain that they have got to this leading position despite other women. And men explain that they have got to this leading position because their friends were supporting them. It's very easy to get from here to the stereotypes. It's very easy to get from here that women are cruel to each other or something like that. It's not in the way. It has been explained by very many different gender studies that women accept the norms that are out there. And if you are working as a boss, you try to accept these norms that are in a society. So how to cut this circle? This is a question. We ourselves try to do, we lecture at the schools and try to empower women. So that the empowerment projects which give everybody the understanding that, hi, it's 2018, there is no gender-specific jobs left in the market. So we will do, every one of us will do better when we accept the best what everybody can afford or everybody can offer, sorry. There might be one historical fact that might explain a part of it. During the Soviet occupation time, there was quite a long list of jobs that were not allowed for women. And the list was really long, and it was made in order to protect women. But it was there for very many years, and it might live today, as well as thinking that there is a job market for men and there is a job market for women, and these are different job markets. But there are no good studies about it.
Hi, thanks. I'm Marina. I live in Estonia right now. I originally come from Russia. I'm part of the AmCham Women in Leadership group, and we actually had a discussion about the pay gap a couple of weeks ago. And I'm curious to ask if in Estonia you noticed that where does the pay gap start, when it starts? Because in the small group that we have, there was an Uber study. Uber commissioned a study where they looked whether there is a pay gap at Uber, because Uber is an app which is the algorithm cannot tell if the driver is male or female, but long story short, they actually noticed that there is a pay gap on Uber and the male drivers earn more. And then they started, there are researchers from universities, and they're trying to get to the bottom of what could be the case. And they discovered that it's actually mostly for the type of choices that different drivers make, that the male drivers drive faster, that they, not so fast to commit more, to create more accidents, but just faster. They also are taking more lucrative areas, but they also could, women also took like some other lucrative areas, some kind of football games on Sundays, something like this. So long story short, there is a page gap. I can't remember what it was, the percentage exactly. Maybe you remember, Kathleen. Something around maybe like 7 or 14. I can check if it's a curiosity, but basically it's because of the different choices that male and female drivers made. And then there's also an interview from a researcher who was researching into pay gap, who said that when male and female students graduate from university, they actually start at the same level. And then it's kind of like the life choices that both make bring this pay gap, so women tend to care for children more, and they it's not so much that they go away from opportunities, but they have other obligations which are assigned to them. So it becomes a complex cultural question, what actually is behind this. And I'm in Estonia, the number being the largest. I'm curious if we are here comparing, what exactly we're comparing here, if we have, with the government, if there is a clear understanding, like these are the factors which contribute to the pay gap, and it starts when women go and have families, where it originates. Thank you.
Thank you. I fully agree with everything you said. And I don't know if it was the same study about Uber, but I remember that about this Uber pay gap, that there was even that the male drivers were gathering in organized way to the same areas, because in this way you push the price up. So I don't know exactly how it works, but you can organize in a way that you gather and you make the price for the customers higher in an organized way. When the pay gap starts, the statistics starts from 15 years of age, and the pay gap starts from 15 years of age. Although it's the lowest in the age group of 15 to 24. The gender pay gap is highest when at the age when women usually give birth. And it affects also the women who are not in a family. But the family has huge impact, not only in Estonia, but also in other countries. What is interesting is that the statistics is slightly different in different developed countries, but the statistic behaves in the absolutely the same way. So the statistical differences might be bigger or smaller, but they are the same in all developed countries. So in all developed countries there is a gender pay gap. In all developed countries it affects mostly women with children, and it affects less the women who have very often told that they are absolutely not interested in any family, and they are not interested in kids, and they will proceed alone. So depending from the country, the pay gap for these women is 0 and it's 5% in Estonia. Unmarried, childless women have gender pay gap approximately 5%, and it's the biggest for the women with many kids. So it clearly has the face of motherhood. And also, last year there was a very good study, 4 countries, United Kingdom, Canada, United States, somebody more, and they studied the gender pay gap at top earners. So the group in the society who has the highest salary, there of course the salary gap is also the highest, because when you have the big numbers the difference is also very big. And they found out that the family factor, or the family choices that women make, are critical. So for quite many women who are even offered that you might go further and get a higher salary, they make another choice because of family reasons. So in a way there is a cultural difference in there, and of course we can't be angry that some women make these choices, but the question is what can be done that everybody can make the choices in a free way and will not be so much sticked. If we go down to this very early age, or if we go down to minors, there is no good statistics available about how much boys and girls work. But we know from the banks, they know quite a lot where the money comes from. We know from the banks that Estonian kids work much less than kids in Scandinavia, and Estonian boys work more than Estonian girls. So as I said previously, Estonian girls do very well at school. So there are some studies that Estonian girls are very much interested in what grades they get from the school and how well they do at the lessons. And boys are much more interested in how they get work experience, how they can earn money from early on. So that also might be an interesting thing to find solutions from.
Any more questions?
It's really not a question. Anyway, my name is Connie, I'm from Austria, and I've had to make career choices and family choices and life choices many times in my life, because both my husband are diplomats and we travel around the world. But what I want to put there is, I think a lot of the reasoning behind all these choices where women then stay home with kids is how the girls and the boys are brought up initially as to what a good choice for a girl is. The good choice for the girl is to have a family. The good choice for the girl is to follow the husband. The good choice is to be together with the family. While the bad choice is that, while the man is never put in this position to make that choice in the society. Now, in my occasion, my family, we made the choice that my husband and I could not get the same post at the same place. But we both chose that both we have a career, and we took up and live separate because of that, even so we are married. So the choices for the woman and the family, if you do not want to let go of your career, can be very, very hard.
Yeah, thank you for this very important comment. I fully agree. These social norms and the stereotypes are not in any way supporting that you can actually make free choices. But what is interesting in this is that actually I made my master's degree on this, that I studied what has been considered as a good child upbringing in Estonia during 100 years. And I found out that in my study that in every 10 years there's a different understanding how it is good to behave as a mother, how it is good to behave as a father. So it helped me a lot, because I understood that if there is a different understanding every 10 years, how to be a good woman, how to be a good mother, It means that it is not a universal thing that you can follow your heart. So if we can make a much more free choices, that you don't have to listen so much what other people think about you. How to get it into life for everybody, I don't know. But it helps a lot if you get yourself free from the social pressure, how to be a good mother. It's anyway not possible to be a good mother according to everyone's opinion. You have to be a good mother according to your own opinion.
Okay, I think we're going to move on with, well, we've got a question now for the audience. So the question is simple. What could be done to improve the gender equality? Let's make it easy to improve it in Estonia, although you can also think universally. Just a good chance for everyone to get to know. But yeah, applause. So just take your time, like 10 minutes or so, and then if you want to nominate someone among you around the table to speak up as well, or become a spokesman, or spokeswoman, sorry, then apologize. Then I'll come to you, and then you can share your ideas and advice. So, and of course, if you want to grab a drink, that's great as well. Thank you. Okay. So, sorry, I just gonna repeat the question in case you missed it. So the question is, what could be done to improve the gender equality? If you want to focus on Estonia, that's fine. If you want to consider it as a universal question, then that's also fine. Thanks.
Ideas are welcome.
So, I hope everyone has had some time to discuss. Who wants to be first? Who wants to who wants to be a volunteer and share some ideas? Okay, we'll start with this table here.
My name is Reem. I am from Egypt. I work as IT specialist here. So, a best solution for women who have kids that they can work remotely from home. Also, yeah, like even not full time but part time. Also, of people saying like they can track what women do. There's screen recorders and other stuff that really can show if you're watching YouTube on how to cook or you're really working. So it's like would be like you don't have to be office. You can just work from home, have your VPN connection, and that is it. But I don't know. I think I'm like from the few women in IT, so that's how we track IT. Even like you're just working from home, you're both recording everything, so they really pay your salary for this. But of course, if you're watching YouTube, then it's a different story. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Who else? I'll just come around you and I'll ask. So, anyone here? Here we go.
Hi. We agree with all these points. We thought maternity leave is maybe too lucrative. It's too long, and everybody is staying home, and it's long. So when you come back, it's you're not as connected as before. Another thing we discussed was this education system. There's still a lot of work needs to be done with the curriculum. We're teaching boys to the cool stuff and the girls the traditional things like knitting and sewing and cooking. I know there has been some progress, or I've been told. I don't have kids in school. I don't have kids, but I've been told that that's the case. And maybe we need to encourage women to negotiate their salaries and ask for more, because it's still an issue doing the same work and not getting paid the same thing.
Thanks. Who else? Anyone who wants to share some ideas here? Thoughts? No? Here? You look like you want to speak up. No, okay. Okay. Okay.
So, my name is Carl and I'm from Estonia. And we all know that Estonia has really good parental laws. Mothers can take a lot of time off when they have a child. But I think that more men should use that. And maybe we should implement a law that 50% of the time can be used by the mothers and 50% of the time can be used by the fathers. So let's say it will be like 2 years or something, and then the mother can use 1 year and the father can use the second year. And as it was mentioned here before, the father gets the same amount of money if he stays home, so he will not lose anything at all. So I think it will be a good idea to implement it in Estonia.
Thank you. Okay, we've got lady here.
Thanks. I work for a startup, so I keep having this idea of soft skills accelerator for both men and women, where you can apply much like startups and say, I'm in position A, I want to get to position B, and you get mentors and exams, like graduation ceremonies, and community helps the people to advance in their careers, and those could be soft skills that traditionally associated maybe with the women and feminine men. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone here? Okay. Right. Okay. We've got a gentleman at the back.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm from France. Just I heard a couple of very good ideas, and it's funny to see some ideas. They are more for the people, like the women, the men, what they can do. Then we think also about what the company can do, and also eventually the government. I work in aviation, and I'm from France, as I just said. And what I know is that, for example, in Air France, the national airline, there is a huge role of the company to promote women to have to be equal, to have the same rights than male pilot, for example, despite that you are the one giving birth. And for the career path and seniority, even if women they have kids during their career, they will keep the seniority, and that's because the company wants that. They promote that. They say to women, they encourage, have kids, have family, keep doing the same, but because you will remain very important for us, so take the time for your family that you need. Male pilots still can do the job, but when you want to come back, then you will be more than welcome. And just the last thing I want to say, I recently joined the national airline of Estonia, Nordica, and there was the Women's Day, I think was last week or 2 weeks ago. And I've been very, very impressed by the speech and all the efforts that the management, especially the men, organize for, to celebrate women in the company that day. And actually, I come from France, which could be considered as a bit more modern. But when I saw that, that was completely unexpected, and I don't think we have that in France, actually. So because some people in the company wanted to do that effort and to celebrate women that day, something very positive and good happened. I know they did it at the office, but they also did at the airport and in flight for women. So if more and more people and companies are doing that, that will maybe encourage other companies to do that. At some point, that will become normal, and I think we might be equal one day. So that's it. That was my share.
Thank you. So thanks, everyone. We'll have a little break, 10-15 minutes, and then we'll carry on with the panel here. So grab yourself a drink and make yourself comfortable. Thank you.
mist as my footsteps fade. I feel the greatest joy of every new perception. The crystal track before me hides the final chapter. I close my eyes because of its reflection. I walk through the mist as my footsteps fade. I feel the greatest joy of every new perception. The crystal track before me hides the final chapter. I close my eyes because of its reflection.
Hello, hello. So we'll carry on. We've got a lovely panel here, 4 ladies. I'll introduce them all. First, we've got Kathleen Nagli. She is an American school director and poet living in Estonia since 2002. She's often engaged in speaking events on topics concerning women in leadership, promoting diversity, and the benefits of internationalism. We've got Mari-Liis Lind. She is the co-founder of Tech Sisters, a non-profit with the aim of inspiring, educating, and encouraging women in IT. She is an experienced project and product manager working with and for startups, design agencies, and government institutions. Karen Burns has over 10 years of experience working in mainly ICT fields, in managerial and business development positions. Currently, she works at CGI Estonia, building up its local cybersecurity product portfolio. Before moving back to Estonia a few years ago, Karen lived and worked in the UK. How long did you work there, sorry? 6 years, okay. And recently, she has also written a number of articles in the Estonian media on gender equality. I think it was in Postimees and Eesti Päevaleht, both of them. And then Oksana attended. Oksana is a fashion designer and entrepreneur running her own label. Among others, she has also designed dresses for some of the most powerful women in Estonia, including potentially the first female prime minister of Estonia.
And Kersti Kaljulaid as well.
And also president, of course, sorry. Yeah, current president Kersti Kaljulaid. So for ladies, please welcome with an applause. And we're gonna discuss a few things. Gonna find out a little bit about their experience working and succeeding in Estonia. So actually, can we start first with that question that one of the followers on Astonishing Evenings Facebook group asked: how do you actually define success?
How do I define success? I think for me has to do maybe with the freedom of choice, as some people were speaking about earlier. Can I pursue the career that I would like to pursue and have the ability to also have a life outside of it? I'm a mother as well, which is, I know, a factor for many of us here in Estonia. So can I be a mother and a CEO and live some kind of normal life without losing my mind, I guess? That would be success.
Thanks. Marilis?
Quite a lot the same, self-fulfillment and balance in life, right? So having it all.
For me, it's also a lot about financial independence. It's very important to me, as well as having the possibility to work flexibly around the family I have. And in our family, my husband works abroad and doesn't live with us in Estonia. And I have an 8-week-old, so it's very difficult to arrange work commitments around this. And also not to be being successful is also not being shoved in boxes. So if I want to return to work after 4 or 5 months, then I should be able to do so without any sort of judgment to be more successful in what I want to do.
I have it. Yeah, I have my own one. Look at me. Yeah, quite the same questions and quite the same answers. I think we were speaking before here that I do not have €1 million on my bank account, but I still feel me independent. So my independency, I really think it's very important to be independent and to make to be owner of your own life, to make your own choices, and to be happy with in your parents, to be happy making your job you love to do. So this is really meaning to be successful.
Thank you. Lisa Costa gave a general overview. I think it was quite substantial, and obviously she also spoke about the stereotypes and etc. From your experience, have you encountered any obstacles here in Estonia as a woman, either as a in your career or everyday life in general? You choose who.
I mean, for me, I work in an organization where I'm not facing normal Estonian society, but I'm part of the American Chamber of Commerce here in Estonia. And the places where I see these things, maybe where strange happenings occur for me in terms of being a woman, and the differences that happen often are in the context of large networking events. So if the top CEOs of Estonia are having a conference or something like this, it is often the case that I am one of the few women in a room of very tall Nordic men. And I feel that I'm just invisible. They can't even see me because I'm so short. And it's a room of men talking about their own things. And so what feels strange for me as an American woman in Estonia is often that I am invisible in many cases. And because the context is often, when you get to a certain level of being a director or a CEO or somewhere in the top here in Estonia, all the women disappear and there's no one left.
Just quickly, well, actually, I was about to come to that later, but you mentioned as well American. I mean, you come obviously from the US. I mean, how do you compare to those two countries in terms of gender equality?
Well, I think one of the first shocking bits for an American woman here is how gendered this society is in its normal context. So I remember even getting off the plane here in Estonia thinking, oh my God, I really got to get my act together, because all these women are so beautifully dressed and so feminine, and so they seemingly have their whole lives together. And you see this play out in many different ways. It's highly feminine and highly masculine society. There's no in between. There's no androgyny in the normal context in Estonia. So this to me is quite strange. And I remember being at an AmCham event where it was a discussion point of very successful women. Is it okay to wear pants to work? And I thought, really? Is this where I'm at? That we have a discussion about wearing pants? Because then I would appear too masculine if I wore pants.
Marilis.
It's funny to hear these things, but I can totally relate. I think as a young professional, I used to feel this more, that you are very invisible in meetings, in board meetings. You might speak up something that is not heard, and then the man sitting next to you almost repeats the same thing, and it suddenly turns out to be a very good idea. Over the years, it becomes easier, or you are taken more seriously the older you get, I guess. But there's one place which Karen already brought out, where I felt really bad, is also when I wanted to return to work after having my baby. And if you make the decision earlier than the 1.5 years, then you get a lot of criticism, both from men and also from women. So like, don't you like having kids? Do you hate your child? Do you want him or her to turn out not well-behaving kid? So there is, the stereotypes are very, very strong, and you are expected to fulfill some sort of norm, as it's like God-given possibility for you to stay at home this long, and the government is paying for that. So why the fuck are you messing up with that? Or like, why are you talking about your own self-fulfillment or financial independence when all of this is taken care for you? If you wear a skirt or what? Yeah. So, and I also with the stereotypes, I think one of the most interesting thing, which is like, where I felt like the strangest was once in the salary negotiations, I got an answer that we don't even pay our men this much. And I was like, why is that relevant? Like what you pay your men? So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, as well as living in the UK, I've also lived in Dubai for 2.5 years, so in the Middle East, and in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So quite a few places to compare Estonia to. And I think it's heavily full of stereotypes, and it's very difficult at times to conduct myself in an accepted normative manner in Estonia, whether it's work or shops or anywhere. My daughter's favorite color is blue, not turquoise, like in the girls section, but blue, like in the boys section. Luckily, she can't read yet, so we can shop in the boys section. But it's like that, and I hate this whole princess rhetoric that's going on in the normal public daycares. So my daughter goes to a smaller private one, and I make very sure that she doesn't get compliments just when she's wearing a dress, which usually happens, but also when she's got new sneakers on, because I can see how it affects her and how she worries about appearance already, and she's 6. So it's very odd to kind of see how that's now entered her consciousness. As for stereotypes, I am a member of the Estonian Defense Industry Association, and I am the leader of the ICT group there. You can imagine how many women there are. And I constantly had to prove myself. Networking events are very hard. You step into a group and immediately you're tested. And I'm not a military background person, and I've never claimed to be. So it's one of those, you know, you can read up and going into a battle, funnily enough. And a really big one recently for me was when I found out that in my previous job, I was underpaid very heavily. And because salary information's very guarded here, it came out over a beer. And because I didn't want to jeopardize the person, being nice and lovely, I never brought it up. And now it comes out that because I didn't do it, I also cannot litigate. It's too late. But I lost out about 8,500 euros net because the person who was reporting to me was paid that much more. So that was quite a sore one to swallow.
Thank you. I'll come back to that, but yeah, let's hear from
But
Oksana first.
obstacles?
No, for the gender pay gap. Oh, the salary difference. Yeah. But Oksana, yeah.
Maybe I was a lucky girl. My father wanted to have a boy, and I was born Oksana. And actually, I wasn't born in Estonia. I was born in Ukraine, and I'm living in Estonia from '84, almost a little bit more than 30 years, and I didn't have any obstacles. I didn't have time to think about it. I just did every time what I wanted to do, every time. And I was sure that I'll do it well. And I was never thinking about it, and I didn't have any problems. And I became a designer, fashion designer, and I'm happy to do it. But of course, it doesn't mean that there are no problems. A lot of problems I'm listening now and analyzing. But still, I would like to say that maybe it's much more difficult to be a woman, an entrepreneur in Estonia, than to be a woman in Estonia. Because of course, there are different reasons. But it's not a topic today.
Just quickly, you're a fashion designer, and Karen spoke about the stereotypes when it comes to dresses and colors. Have you seen any difference in terms of the mindset over the years when it comes to fashion?
I have a daughter as well, and she doesn't like pink as well. She likes green or blue, different. It's maybe because of stereotypes. And there are a lot of stereotypes, but the picture is changing, really. It's changing fast. Just because girls want to be different. More and more people and women, they want to be unique. So if it's normality, even this word equality, it's about something, I don't want to be equal, actually. I want to be the best. I want to be different. I don't want to be equal. So this is a big problem for me. What means equality? In Soviet Union, everybody should be the same. But I hate it when everybody's the same. The salaries are the same. It's terrible. Why? Why a woman should earn more money than men? If maybe it's like a lot of questions here. It's not so easy topic. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. Little bit of the education system as well. I mean, Kathleen, you work as a director of the international school. I don't know exactly how you've put together the curriculum, but in Estonia, I think one of the issues has been that it is in the education system. How we brought up, sort of women, girls are supposed to learn one thing and boys another. Do you, as someone who works in the education system, do you think that is an issue or has been an issue, or is it any different in your school?
I think in our school we have a mission to be different on this topic already. So it's something that we had to fight at all levels, because just like you said about the pink princess issue, this comes to children at a very young age. So when they walk into the store, you go to Kalbamaya's toy section on the 5th floor or whatever it's on, you can see how children already feel that they're in the wrong section if they're not looking at the pink section if they're girls or the Lego section for boys. So there are societal pressures already from the youngest age, from 3-year-olds we can see it. So this is something that we have to fight as educators in general. And we also have to find ways where we lose girls, and we lose girls to not going to IT or fields that are where the jobs are going to be in the next few years. It happens in middle school. So there has to be a lot of attention for how we help girls navigate the social norms to not be interested in STEM fields, science, technology, and these sorts of things. So our school takes this very seriously, and we've had, for the last 3 or 4 years, the majority of our girls have headed towards science and technology fields because we emphasize this. But in general, it's these stereotypes come from all of us, and I think what Lisa said earlier is very important. It's depending on the societal norm in this group. So if Estonia generally sees women in a certain sort of way, and this becomes the norm, and we help keep this norm perpetuating, then nothing changes. And I think the big issue here that maybe no one is touching in Estonia is this is a crisis situation in this country. This is the worst type of human rights violation. All right. And no one takes it seriously. We'll have a couple studies, a little bit of money goes here. We have events like this. The majority here is, guess who? Women, right? We have, in this country, most of the men, or in the parliament is primarily men. There's very few women in politics, very few women in power, and those who are making the laws and putting money towards this are not seeing this as an issue. The question is it an issue in Estonia? We're still asking that question. Is it an issue here? We have the worst rate of the pay gap. I think it's an issue. When is someone really going to take it seriously here? Sorry.
That's okay. And Marilis, you set up Tech Sisters. Was it when exactly? Maybe you can tell a little bit of Tech Sisters, because I think that's also falls in with the stereotype issue, isn't it? That and you want to actually do something about it with Tech Sisters.
Yeah, well, we started Tech Sisters 5 years ago with exactly the same reason, that being at tech events, you would be a kind of the very lonely woman there, and you know that there are some women, but it's few. And firstly, to like create the community and get to know each other, but also then to really encourage more women to join that community and to break these stereotypes that it's an area or sphere for these dudes only. And what we do these days is we do activities for grown-up women. We teach basic programming skills or very entry-level tech workshops we do. And we do these community events for women who are already in tech. But we also do a track of events for teenage girls. So girls from 13 to 19-year-olds. We arrange DigiGirls Days, which are like days at tech companies hosted by women who work in tech, giving them the workshops from the area where they work in. So basically they get free things, they get female role models in technology, they get interesting workshops that open up the whole field for them, and they get to see what a tech company looks like, because usually what kids know is where their parents work and what their parents do, and that's about it. The overall interaction and seeing different role models is very, very thin. So, and from this side, what we've experienced is that when we do these workshops and when we inform schools about the workshops, so to get registrations, what we've seen is that in some schools it is the teacher or the headmistress who is the showstopper or the gatekeeper, and like you see that there's no registrations coming in from certain schools. You contact the school and you get a reply that, yeah, we got the materials, but we're not spreading them to our school because our girls are not interested in this topic. Yeah. So, and 2 years ago, Skype and Tartu University actually conducted a study to understand why there are so few girls who go to learn IT or like in computer science. And the results of these studies show actually that it is very often the teachers, it's very often the parents who are to blame. That even if the girls have the interest, then the parents say that why wouldn't you pick a softer subject or future career? Why do you don't go studying mathematics or engineering and pick something that's more girly? Or at schools, the places in the programming club could be pre-reserved for boys, particularly. So there's different ways of adults really kind of conducting the kids in the right direction in their manner, or enforcing these stereotypes more and more and more. So yeah, so Tech Sisters wants to break it, and we hope we have some kind of effect on that.
Thank you. Karen, you want to add something about the education?
Just yesterday when I was talking about thinking before this event about education, I remembered when, and it still happens actually, Estonia has this home education class, and it's very much still gendered. And I contacted my previous primary school to ask what are the numbers, how many boys are taking the needlework classes and how many girls are allowed to take the design and woodwork classes. And no boy has ever taken a girls' class. But the numbers have crept up, so more girls are now attending boys' classes, but they don't allow to change. So if a girl makes their mind up and wants to go and do woodwork when they turn, 12 or 13, then that school doesn't allow for that flexibility. And I'm assuming a lot of schools don't allow that. And when we were in school, our teacher made us make sandwiches for the boys after they retired from their woodworking class and taught us how to serve them up. And I never thought about it until yesterday, how horrible that was, because it was just normal. And I grew up on a farm, so Grandpa came home and plonk, Granny put a warm plate of food down for him, and that was just the way it was.
Thank you. Oksana, you mentioned as well that you obviously you were born in Ukraine, and I don't know how do you still keep in touch with that country? And I mean, for you and also Kathleen, that's the question is the same, that if you compare, I mean, actually I already asked you, but if you compare the country where you're coming from, I mean, do you think, is there any difference for worse or better?
Maybe I'm not sure anymore, because I have been really last time in Ukraine 10 years ago, so it's quite a lot time ago. But maybe really in Ukraine, the gap is more deep. The situation is not better than in Estonia, definitely, because it's like really women must be at the kitchen, and the woman should care about kids. But my mother was a teacher, my father was an engineer, and I had a little bit different idea, because I saw my mother was working, my father is working, both are working, both earning money, and my mother was always earning more money than my father. Maybe this is was nice example, I understand, yeah, because she told me woman must be independent. It doesn't, she can't be really just hope that somebody is going to care of her. So it's my lesson from my childhood. But I think situation in Estonia is better. Really, it's improving. And this 25%, like you told before, and like Lisa told before, maybe it's not very adequate picture, because if you compare different areas, the situation will be different. And we're not talking about entrepreneurs as well. We are not talking about independent and businesswoman as well. So it's some kind of picture, but it's not really very adequate to my mind. But I found an obstacle. I hate this world, because usually I prefer to not have any obstacles on my way. I can't be a president of Estonia because I am Ukrainian. I was born in Ukraine. I have Estonian citizenship, but I really can't even dream about it, you know? And I don't like it. We have to change the situation. Let's change the law.
Sure. So you mean you have to be born in Estonia to be?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I
okay.
don't like
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
I really don't. Not because I want to become a president of, just because I don't. I even can't think about it because and I ask some politicals why. Yeah, historically, it's like very, very, very old-fashioned answer.
Fair enough. Talking a little bit of feminism, I remembered once, I think it was also an American lady who wrote an opinion article for Estonian World, and it was observations by a foreign feminist or something like that was the title. And she argued that Estonians don't really know what feminism stands for, that, you know, they don't really understand it. Do you agree with that? Or?
Wholeheartedly. It's more of a sweary word than a bad label. The lady who runs Superhero Girls, Eva, yeah, she was telling me how some girls, they're really afraid of them, but they want to label themselves as such because, well, boys might not like them, but it's this really horrible thing, and you basically shave your head off and hair off and smell and scream and burn your bras. It's a very old anachronistic view of what feminism is. And I keep telling everybody that, no, it's just, on its purest basic form, it means equal rights. It doesn't mean equality as in man equals woman. It just means equal opportunity to achieve goals and success. That's all it is. And if you don't believe in that, then you're a very horrible person, because everybody should be a feminist. Not only when you have daughters, which, how ridiculous is this? Men often say, oh, now that I have daughters. Well, would you imagine a woman saying, well, now that I have a son? Come on.
Another thing is, just coming back now to that gender pay gap. If you look at Sweden and some other countries, they made it into law that companies that have certain number, I think in Sweden it was that if you have at least 25 employees, then you have to...
I think that was Iceland.
Was it Iceland as well, yeah? But I think, okay, in Iceland definitely, but it's something in Sweden as well. So basically the law, by law, you know, there's a regulation that they have to make public the data, to make sure that, you know, everyone gets equal pay for the equally valued job. Do you think that could change something in Estonia if we introduced? Obviously, some people would say that, you know, we don't want to sort of over-regulated country. I know, but there's always voices against that as well. Even though it generally seems Estonia is, you know, wants to be more Nordic, that this is sort of Nordic model. On the other hand, there are others who say, you know, we don't want to be over-regulated society. What's your take on that?
Well, as I said before, like I think it's an issue that the salary is kind of the secret here, and then you kind of like try to understand what the level is. So salary transparency definitely would help women to ask for a better salary, because it's also, I guess it's part of the way women are, or girls are raised, is that the girls are raised to be nice, not argue too much, and then they end up not really negotiating enough, but settling what is offered at first. So this is where I think they start earning less already from early on. This is also what Lisa said, that from 15 years old on, you can see that the girls make less money, right? So the transparency of what you can earn in a certain position would definitely help increase awareness and possibly diminish a bit of that gender pay gap.
I could speak to that. There's been some interesting studies about this, and we've explored this in the AmCham a couple of times. I think there's a fear of too much regulation, but these regulations to report somehow have a self-regulating effect. So the companies that are asked just to report what the salaries are for men and women, or some kind of statistical report, like we have to do normally for Statistics Estonia. So this being just a question often will change the practices of a company, because what it exposes, like, oh, what is the pay gap between our men and women? oh, wow, we maybe have 27% or 3% and we're doing great or whatever that might be. But just identifying this as an issue sometimes is what's forcing change. Estonia has 90% or more of their companies are small and medium businesses. So it's mom and pop shops, it's small companies who don't have the resources of these big corporations who explore these ideas, who help promote women. This is a very small thing that can happen in Estonia that could make huge changes. Estonians, from my view, love to meet the regulations. So just putting a reporting regulation into the daily practice of a company that has to report to the Estonian registry or whatever can have an effect on what actually happens in a company.
Thank you. But let's take some questions from the audience. Okay, lady over there. If you can introduce yourself as well and say where you're from. And well, I know personally, but you can tell.
Yeah, 3 months ago I lived in the UK 13 years. So I'm back in Estonia and I work in here as a finance manager now. And I have good news for you all. What I hear today from the professional accountant clubs, and soon there will be a new regulations that all the employers must reveal employees' new salaries in the workers' register database. It will be exactly the same as far as I understand. It's very new information. It will be the same way like we are recognizing our areas where we like we do our not the tax declarations. It's just the area where our fields. Like if you are IT, you say that certain. This is what our company is doing. The same will be for the occupations as well. So there will be soon for Estonia, I hope it's the true, real-time salary information by the job titles. So we can see actually how much the accountant at certain level earn in a Tallinn or earn in a Võru. And it means it gives a power to get the better negotiations, because that's what I felt when I wanted to come back to Estonia. How much I can ask? What's the fair level? Because everything was so secret. I didn't know. It was really,
Always
really struggling.
ask much more. Media. Ask more.
I made my bold move. So I can't say that I didn't win. That's why I'm here. But yeah, I think it's a great news and I hope it will be launched soon.
Anyone else wants to ask? Okay, I'll carry on with the... Oh, okay.
I just would like to comment on the situation when I moved to Estonia. I was told that feminism didn't arrive yet, and that girls are bringing their own drinks to the parties, but they don't pour the drink to their glasses, that they let the guys to do it for them. And actually, I've seen it plenty times. And I was told that I'm not girly enough because, yes, I had cars, I was climbing trees, and I was always the one who bullied the boys. So in Estonia, I was told I'm not girly enough. But in the cover of this event is the nice picture of the girl saying that she has leadership skills, that she's not bossy. And I think the word bossy haven't been told here yet, which I think it's very important word because a lot of girls is afraid to be called bossy. Even she's might not, but anyways, you do try to lead the group and you bossy. And definitely you women been called bossy in your life, I bet. So how have you dealt with that?
I enjoy it. Because I am the boss. And you are the boss as well if you want it. It's a roles, only roles. Every day you can make your own choices. It's about choices. It's about what feminism is. It's a choice. So possibility to make your own choice. Today I want to be a boss, tomorrow I want to be a wife, correct, with a nice dress. Today I'm with a jacket, tomorrow I would like to change. So it's about, yes, if you want to be boss, you have to be a boss. Maybe you are not boss, but maybe it was interesting about different fields. I just want to comment it, because fields are different and salaries are different, depends on the field. And the biggest problem maybe in Estonia, if I talk about my sector, creative industries. Creative industries, like, there is common opinion that artists, they do not make money at all. Artists, they do not have to pay bills. They are artists. Art, but arts case. It means like artists, they are not a businessman. Why it's so expensive, your dress? Why? So nobody takes really an artist seriously. And creative industries, if we are talking about musicians, fashion designers, singers, they really maybe they feel this pay gap difference because it's really underpaid area. Underpaid. If we compare with IT sector, and I'm always thinking fashion is so sexy area. Why it's not so good paid like IT? Fashion, it's so attractive, it's so beautiful. Or art, or music, or it's actually creative. Creativity is a future. It's really one very interesting and not only interesting, and really interesting area. And why? Just because stereotypes that artists, they are not working for money, they're working for idea.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to comment on that?
We were just wondering, is there a Estonian word for bossy? You're not bossy in Estonia. Ülbe? No?
Kuidas eesti keeles, jah? Huvitav.
I guess, yeah, because boss is, you can't maybe directly translate it. So in English, I would take it as a compliment. Booba. Yeah, I'm not sure. But regarding the gender pay gap, I think I really echo your sentiments from earlier on, Kathleen, in terms of it as a crisis. It's not enough that just a job position salary will be published. There must be data on what women are paid in comparison to men. The gender pay gap has been here for 10 years. It's not shifted. It's both horizontally and vertically the biggest in the EU. It's ridiculous. And it exasperates me every single day that I still have to, first of all, even say that there is such a thing here, then, you know, be the victim of one, and then be the subject to, oh, but you were stupid, why didn't you ask for more? But I've lived abroad for 10 years, where in the UK you have salary published next to a job ad, and then you negotiate your top-up fees based on your performance, and you have KPIs and all those fantastic things that Estonia is still learning about. Why can't we have that here? Base salary should be something that you know, and then whatever you can then prove in terms of how much value you've brought to a company. Brilliant, pay me a bonus. What's the issue? So I've even thought about moving back, actually, because I've got 2 daughters, and I think it's going to take a lot longer than just one generation to flesh it out.
If I could speak on the bossy issue, because linguistically, this is something that is attributed to women usually only. So a woman who is seemingly aggressive in her business in the most negative way is bossy. As for men, it might be that this person is showing leadership or something like this. So there's a lot of studies on this for women as well. And what we see is that when women pull themselves out of some kind of caring role in a corporation or in a business and turn to a decision-making role, that's when the shift happens. And this is when these words come out, and usually much worse words than bossy, actually. So this is something that I think for most women in leadership roles are constantly navigating, of how to be caring and warm and helpful but also have to make the hard decisions in a company, because every time you make a hard decision, then a shift happens in the perspective of you.
Thank you. Just a quick question for the audience as well. How many of you have heard about what it was called Icelandic Day Off? I'm not sure if I've described it properly, but basically it was 1975 when the exact date was 24th of October when Icelandic women went on strike for the day. I quote, to demonstrate the indispensable work of women for Iceland's economy and society, and to protest wage discrepancy and unfair employment practices. So about 25,000 Icelandic women demonstrate on the streets of Reykjavik. And 25,000, that was about 10% of the total population of Iceland at the time. And today, I just read a report, Iceland has been, for the past 9 years, United Nations considers Iceland as the best country for women, or to be a woman at. But it's obviously, it shows that the progress is long. I mean, 1975, and now we're in 2018. But my question for you is, do you think in Estonia, I don't expect something like that to happen in Iceland, because generally Estonians are not the kind of people who go on the street to protest. But do you think women here could and should do more to sort of stand up for their rights? And what should be done?
Like I said, I think first there has to be an acknowledgement that this is an issue. I don't think this society has really understood or has met this as an issue yet. It's not something that people are concerned about. Oh, yeah, we still have the pay gap. There's no anxiety, anger, upset, anything to have a protest in this country on this topic. I think, though, that if women were to organize, and it doesn't have to be something crazy, things will happen. I remember there was a teacher strike here in Estonia, maybe 6-7 years ago, and very few teachers went to the parliament. I don't even know what the number, it was probably less than 100, and stood quietly. I don't even think they had signs. And then people realized, oh my God, the teachers are upset. And then they raised teacher salaries. So maybe the action could be quite small for big changes.
Yeah, I guess that kind of reflects a lot of how Estonians tend to behave. Like for the gender pay gap, even we here kind of try to find rationalized reasons why it exists and not to start rioting about it, right? So, yeah, I guess we should go on the streets about this issue.
Let's go tomorrow or now.
Yeah. Even if you go quietly, that's a statement.
Yeah, I would probably very much encourage women to talk about their salaries. Because when I first came back from being abroad, I didn't know what the salaries would be. And running the statistics website for a sales manager, you get all sorts of salaries, because anybody could have that title. And I was actually told by one of my superiors in a previous job that salary information is confidential and I'm not allowed to discuss it with anybody, which is actually incorrect. And a lot of people I encounter still say that, no, I'm legally not allowed to discuss it, when it's absolutely incorrect. Your employer is not allowed to disclose your salary details. So, very odd, that one. There still hasn't been a gender pay dispute that's been set as a precedent. And I was really hoping to be one, but because of Estonia's laws in terms of how salary is negotiated, unless the company has a very clear structure in pay bands, it's like buying a house. And if you didn't ask for the right price for your service, that's it. You were, that's it. There's nothing you can really do. And the excuses that the employer can find are multiple, and the courts are just not willing to take it on. They don't want to discuss this issue at all. And it will be shifted from the gendered kernel of the discussion to something administrative. So I was really hoping to be the president, but it won't happen. Bugger.
Yeah, actually, coming to question of politics. I mean, I know you follow politics quite a lot as well. Do you think Estonian female politicians stand up or represent, the issues you're talking about? I know. Well, again, this is a positive example of, that we have a first female president, whom I interviewed for an article, and I did ask her that question as well. Do you think the gender pay gap is an issue? And she said, of course it's an issue. And, she spoke quite a lengthy, she gave a lengthy answer about it. But I haven't, so far, I haven't heard her, maybe, sorry if I've missed, but I haven't heard publicly to bring it up as an issue yet. She may...
I think Ossinovski
again,
is
good question.
the only one.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah, nobody's bringing it up. Not the men nor the women in it. I think there's so few of them. The class big one to the straws, really, to have any sort of voice there at all. And then if you start talking about the soft stuff, you'll be labeled as hysterical, and you discredit your whole argument. Very simple.
Maybe some quotes could help as well. Just an idea. Quotes. What do you think? Yeah, quotas.
Yeah, very strongly.
Maybe some idea.
Yeah.
I support quotas too, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, logically, Social Democrats is the party who should sort of come up with that. But it seems that the sort of mainstream media and the society in general is I wouldn't say becoming hysterical, but you can see the reaction is quite strong. So, but I mean, obviously, I agree that there should be at least one political party that is bringing up a standing event.
I think it has been Yevgeny Ossinovsky who has actually mentioned it. So it's been a man and a Social Democrat, but it's like the one voice.
So, any more questions from the audience? Yep, a gentleman at there.
Hi, my name is Marco. Sorry I forgot the names, but I wanted to ask, do you think that women are more controlled by fear? For example, you were saying before it's just a role to be boss, and you were one more thing about about salary, to ask for a bigger salary. Is it do you think it's connected with this, maybe, that women are more controlled by fear?
I personally think it's a question of the overall mental health of the society, and fear is a great part of that. And it's if we look at the statistics of domestic violence in Estonia, it's like 1/10 of all the crimes that happen in Estonia are domestic violence crimes. And it's really drastic, I would say. And then coming back to what Liisa Pakosta said in the beginning is that it's also like women need to, a lot of women need to worry whether they keep their jobs or not, right? So you don't have a secure network at all. So I think it's around these issues, and the whole society is, if we take the, World Happiness Index, or what was published just last week, right? The World Economic Forum talked about it. So Estonia ranks at 63rd place, just 80 kilometers up in Finland. They are the first place, and even Latvians and Lithuanians are way higher than us. So something is wrong with our society as a whole, I think, which needs to be fixed. I think there is fear. There is fear in it. You're completely correct.
I also think it's because we have the gender pay gap in terms of both vertical and horizontal. It means that women are segregated into lower positions, and very much women's jobs, which we know are more insecure and pay less. So obviously there will be a fear associated with losing one's job, and the amount of single mothers and so forth we have here. The old Estonian proverb goes, "I'd rather have a sparrow in my hand than a dove on my roof." So I think that's one of those things that you'd keep in mind when you have a salary discussion.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Have a great discussion. My name is Annika. I'm from Estonia, and we are concentrating a lot about the salary gap and talks about money, money, money. But have we actually defined the meaning of the success? I mean, it's really terrific to put women in IT and do stuff that are like men used to do and these things. But why can't we believe that success can be something else, not like a box where people are put in by the physical stuff they have? Are they women or men, or how much money they get, or are they mothers or fathers? So for me, the main question is still, what is actually success for a person? Is it like, if I'm a woman, I'm going to IT, now I'm a successful person? So what does actually make a person successful? Based on these talks, I hear only two things. One of them is money, pay gap, equality to do the same things as men are doing. But maybe we should talk about what men can do differently as well. Or what is success? Maybe I'm a successful mother. And how is this thing? Yeah.
And actually, I told him before in the beginning that to be successful doesn't mean to have this million on your bank account. It doesn't mean to be successful. Success is a balance. It's a balance between the job you like and between the parenting. But of course, successful person for me, it's a happy person. What makes us happy? Love. Only love. Our parents love, our husbands love, support, female support, women's solidarity. It's a big problem in Estonia. We see it in politics, we see it everywhere. In every area, women hate women. Why? Tell me why. Because it's a big problem in Estonia. Women doesn't support women. And maybe there are these problems. But successful people, they are happy. And they have right and they have choice to choose and to make their life. This is actually in Estonia you have good field to achieve it, because actually we live in democracy here. I feel it. I don't feel any problems to achieve everything you want, every salary you want. But salary, it's not a topic at all. So
Yeah.
from my point.
Yeah, but also that's another one of those feminizing traits. Oh, we must not talk about money because it's not feminine, and we can't, a successful, financially independent woman is often seen as very threatening. And I think it's very important for women to talk about money and equate it with success, because money buys you freedom. And when we look at donations to the American political parties, who are the major donors who then are able to affect change through the policies that will affect everybody? It's the wealthiest men who are often conservative. Look at the abortion policies in the US. I mean, it's mental. I don't even want to visit until that baboon's off the chair.
So it's really balance. You're right. It's balance. It's balance.
Balance as well, but it's not even balance yet. We need to embrace the topic of financial independence for women, being able to also support and pay politicians to support the causes that we want and we see as are important, because money will also buy political power. It's what happens.
I could follow up on this as well. Oftentimes when we are successful, then this is the exact same kind of questions I get all the time. Well, aren't you a bad mother is really what the question often comes down to, because I've made choices to work and to work full time, and sometimes I have a late meeting, and so these are the other pressures we're facing once you've gotten to the successful level, is the judgment by all of society that says, wow, you're working, must be a bad mom as well. So these are strange pieces we have to face. We have to face possible discrimination between those who are in the same job, not getting the same pay. We have a society that is saying that you cannot be yourself, whether that's a highly feminine woman or not. We have a society that is looking at women who are successful in a negative light. We have a political system in this country that is not supporting women in leadership, in parliament and other places. So to me, there's a whole societal milieu of issues that are going on here, that it's not about fix the women, it's not about we've done something wrong, it's about whether or not we're acknowledging, like I said earlier, are we acknowledging there's an issue in this country that women are incredibly educated here and yet are not equal?
Thank you. There was another question? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for discussion. And I'm Jana, also from Estonia, but with more interesting background. I'm coming from northeast of Estonia. And speaking the truth, 2 years ago, I have just escaped from that region because, yes, I wanted to be a manager, but I was told that I cannot, because even some kind of negotiations, especially with the Russian Federation, even if I was like an expert, I was asked to leave the room because I was a woman, and I was offered to go to have a shopping in Moscow or in St. Petersburg during the negotiations. So it wasn't an option for me to become a manager and to represent my association, not like the place where I was working. So it is really very nice discussion, and I love all the figures and facts what you're bringing out and about society that really, but I'm just asking that when this kind of discussion will be in Estonian and in Russian and brought like a little bit on the like everyday level. So I really would like to get some kind of such kind of discussions in maybe main factories in Ida-Viru, and just to talk with this really extreme super beautiful women who are working in the minings, who are working in the chemical industry, and they are running this world. And what now, for example, Swedish and Finnish investors is developing, or not development, like revelation for them that the best managers are women. And what is going on now in Ida-Viru, that they are picking up those who has been like middle-level managers during the Krenholm or in the big factories, and putting them on to manage the factories, which is brought from like with the foreign investments. So let's go to those women who really needs our support and understanding. What can they achieve when we will be together? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just adding to that point about managers. We actually tried to get the data of how many senior managerial posts are held by women in Estonia, and I think I may be wrong, but I think it was roughly 1/3. But is that sounds about right? So I mean, I don't know if it's a small number or not. I guess in some countries it's much higher. Some countries it's even lower. Difficult to say, but it shows that there are lots of female managers. Did you want to comment on that as well? Sorry, before I...
We've been to Narva and we plan to go again this this September, to be honest. So yeah, we are there. But I think there was another.
There's another question. Okay, fine, we'll take that one.
Well, we have today's evening is how can a woman be successful in Estonia, if I remember the theme. We have now talked a lot about pay gap, about equal rights. My question to you is, what advice would you give to a woman what she has to do to be successful in Estonia?
To love yourself. To respect your colleagues, to know exactly what you want, to respect men and women, to respect people, not only love, to respect. So respect different languages, respect different cultures. Because like I told, I'm Ukrainian, but I never felt something like I'm not Estonian. I always felt like I'm home. Why? Because I learned Estonian well from the beginning, because I love this country, because I respect these people. So maybe it's like, okay, if you want to be successful somewhere, first of all, you have to understand where you're living and how you can impact, what can you do for this country. And not only for this country, for yourself. So like I told before, first of all, love yourself, and then you can love people around you and respect people around you.
I'll be very quick. I think it's about speaking out more. I think women in Estonia, girls in Estonia, are taught to be nice and silent, and very few actually come out and speak about things. And this is why very few end up in leadership positions, in politics, as managers. And it's there is a saying that 90% of the success is just of showing up, right?
Just do your job.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think we should do that more. We should, when we think about something, we should say it out loud and be heard.
Thank you. Karen, did you want to add something?
I'm quite aggressive, I guess, in my approach. My advice would be to speak out more and fight for your rights. Don't let yourself be sidelined. One of the best pieces of advice that was ever given to me was by my husband. And he said, Karen, when you go into a room and someone challenges you or puts you down because you're a woman, just ignore them, just completely ignore them. Because every single board meeting or every single CEO meeting he's been to, half of the people don't know what the hell they're doing. So as long as you know that you've done your job right, it's their problem that they can't handle you being in the room.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I have one question as well.
Sorry, just Kathleen, quickly. Did you want to add something?
I do trainings on this around the world as to what women should do to be successful in their particular field, and my field is in education. And a lot of it is about learning the game of your field as how to get to the top of that field. And one of the things I would recommend to many of the women in the room is to read a book by Sylvia Ann Hewlett called Executive Presence. It talks about the factors that women have to face to be perceived as professional and an authority. So there are tricks. There's a game to this. Let's learn the game so that we can become, so we can get to the table to make the changes that are necessary. So how you present your voice to be heard is a complicated issue in any society, but we need to get to the table to make the changes that are necessary for the society. So I agree with what has been said here, but this is something I would recommend to most women. Learn the game of your field and then get to the point where you can change the rules, because that's what we need to do.
Thanks. Relika?
Yeah, I am Relika, one of the organizers. I would like to go back to the, in the beginning we talked about the upbringing, the princess issue and so on. It's a very personal question, so you can only reply if you feel comfortable. Looking back, I can see that the upbringing, and especially my father, has had a huge role. So the main advice from my father was very similar to your husband, Karen. So it was usually very much of just smile, nod, and do your own thing anyway. So I grew up very much a tomboy as well, or I still am, and I always hated pink. And I grew up with two older brothers, but I was never ever treated as the youngest princess in the family. And I owe very much everything to my father, who taught me to fish, to fix the car, anything I would like, basically. So just this, nowadays we call it the badass attitude, simply just do what you want. So, but in this country, and even among my female friends, there are very many women who grew up without a father, which is also a big role. So in general, doesn't have to be the perfect mother-father situation, but how do you think your upbringing has made you the woman or the strong woman that you are now, women you are?
I come from a long line of badass women, for sure.
Very good.
I am the weakest among of them. My mother grew up in absolute poverty in Philadelphia and grew up with the rats scratching at the door when she was a child. And my grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. And what I've learned from them is to fight for what's important and know when to fight is the important point. So to be able to figure out when it is the time to actually fight for your values, to fight for what's truly important for you. This is when you stand up. The rest of the time you do what you have to do to get by, to survive, to take care of your family, to have employment. But I've had an incredible amount of training by women who believe that when it's time to fight, that you do whatever it needs to take to survive.
Yeah, I guess it's right that it's not about father figure or like mother figure. It's just about having a good support network when you grow up and a role model, so that you feel that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. But yeah.
For me, it was my granny, actually, on my mum's side, because my mother and father returned to work quite quickly from when we were children, and she didn't have time to look after us. So she taught independence and responsibility, because we had to look after, cattle and so forth. So that's what I think has made me really resilient. But also I really flourished when I left Estonia, I have to say. So I left when I was 18, and I spent 10 years away from here, learning and growing and educating myself. So I think that was also a big thing for me, was to leave.
I told everything almost. Support from parents, support from your friends, support women support. So it's like just encourage and support each other. It's the main thing. If you feel support from the beginning, and so you feel confident, so you feel that you can fight. A lot of women they don't believe, they feel fear maybe. I just not this woman. I never felt fear, never, from the beginning. I just because it was from the childhood, because this is like not support. This is help of my parents to feel me that I am unique. I am the best. I will manage with everything in my life. So now I try to make the same with my daughter. You can choose. It's your choice. I am not going to advise you. Do it better. Not compare yours with others. Never compare, because we are all unique. And therefore it's very difficult to give an advice how to achieve, how to be successful, because it's always different stories. And everybody is like different definition of the success for everybody. And the people have a right to have their own definition of success. So it's like love.
Oksana represents love tonight.
And peace.
And I think
actually I will fight someday. But I'm preparing. I'm preparing for it.
I
will
agree
fight.
with you. Love is very important. So
It's
absolutely.
everything.
It's everything, and that's not only for women, for men too. So for both of us.
Yes.
Sure, but I just quickly want to pick up on solidarity issue. I think you mentioned solidarity. I think that's not just the Estonian issue. That's probably universal, right? I mean, I've read some biographies of female politicians, and they always say how little solidarity they had among the women. What's my question is basically, I mean, do you think it is still a big problem, or I mean, is it improving? The solidarity issue here. Is it probably improving universal? I would say.
I haven't found it as a problem in Estonia. I know some people say women hate women or something like that. I haven't experienced this at all. I've experienced lovely women in many different contexts here who are all cheering each other on and trying to find ways to help each other. So this is not something Do we have a very strong network here in Estonia? I'm not sure if that is present for women who are trying to navigate these issues, the courts and other things. So I think there's probably room to grow, but I personally haven't experienced any type of discrimination of women against women in Estonia.
Yeah, I would echo your sentiment. Yeah, it's actually been really good here. A lot of the opportunities that have been presented to me have been through other women, and I always try and do the same. Yeah, so not really.
Okay, and I've got another question here, and that came from one of our team member. And the question is, who pays for the dinner? This is the question. I didn't make it up. Nele, did you ask that question? Stand up and say what.
Depends. I still take my husband out on meals, but I just don't take him to as fancy a place as he can afford to take me to. No, but what I mean is in terms of I will treat him and he treats me. We have a very different salary, so you pay your share, and we definitely do. So I think I don't think there should be an expectation, like the whole. I think there was a discussion on Facebook around this question as well. And as a woman, I would feel really cheap. And if on a first date, I would be paid for, somebody would pay for everything, and then there might be some sort of expectation at the end of it.
It's a shared responsibility. I think you share the bill, or the one who invites can treat, or it's like definitely not that you need to be treated all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it just depends again on how the context of the relationship is about. So if it's based as a very highly gendered situation, then it plays out in that way. So it depends if you meet these lovely women, and I would imagine that the expectation is not that they're fawning over some man to take care of them and rescue them on, for their dinner bill. So I think it probably depends on the initial relationship.
Thank you. So slowly start to wrapping up, but we have time for another question or two. Yeah?
I just will make short the experience of being IT specialist in Egypt, and after I moved to Estonia, usually in Egypt, wanted, IT specialist, male only. So I had to work in Egypt for 5 years almost with no salary, just to have experience. Then after I moved here, I take good salary. Also, even man here can take it, or just so I survived. I find it. I don't have husband or kids. I don't want men at all. They can go to hell. Not my problem. But so I just survived, and now I'm take good salary. And just if someone tell me you should have married or have kids, I tell them please make them your own and put in your own ass. So I really don't care. For me, more important money and success. Man without man, not everyone business. I have my own mind. I don't need any man or anyone just to share dinner. What the fuck? I can have 2,000 euro and salary, and then I can use him. So it depends. If you want to be successful, try to just kill your emotions. That's my opinion. So.
Thank you. Well, actually, I've got a last question, and let's try to finish with a positive note. So, looking at Estonia, I think things have improved a bit. We have a first female president, possible female prime minister next year, possibly. In terms of parliament share, female MPs, I don't think there has been much change. That's been probably, it's stuck where it is. But in your opinion, if we, gathered again here, let's say 5 or 10 years' time, what sort of improvement would you like to see, and what's your vision?
I think Estonia can move through many situations very quickly. When the changes happened in the early 90s, Estonia embraced that it was going to be this high-tech society. They put the infrastructure in, they put computers in schools. They you can maneuver in this country very quickly with changes, but there has to be a will from those involved. So if the will happens in Estonia, I think, you know, the difference between here and Finland would shrink very quickly. But it's that there has to be an understanding that there's a problem, we need to move forward. I think there's great hopes for Estonia. And something I've always spoke about is the idea that we talk about e-Estonia, let's talk about e-diversity in this society. Let's be this incredibly energetic society that's ready to move forward, to lead the world in every area, not just in IT or particular educational fields. This country has the possibility to do amazing things. It just has to be willing to look at itself in the mirror and say what needs to change.
Thank you.
Very good comment. I see already the first traces of evidence that there is change happening, especially in IT field. You see there is a huge number of successful female founders in Estonia and who are becoming good role models. Also in the creative field, very many very successful and outspoken women. So by getting more and more of these very good role models, the president, of course, as well, I think we are little by little creating the change ourselves. The more there are women who are successful in those terms, I think the more there will be overall societal acceptance that women are in leadership positions, that we can openly start discussing the issues that we have with gender pay gap, with sharing the responsibility in bringing up the family, etc. So I do believe that in 5 or 10 years we're definitely in a better place. It's just about enforcing these little changes that are already happening.
Yeah, either nothing will have changed or a ton will have changed, I think. Yeah, exactly, because when people make their minds up here, they usually move forward quite quickly. I personally hope that the national conservative view has waned a little bit, because that really frightens me, because it endangers my choice. And also, I really hope that there will be more women in politics influencing that change, because I think after Fiji, Estonia is the second or third country in the world where the men to women ratio is as skewed as it is. So we really need to go and help ourselves, actually.
Thank you. Oksana?
I am an optimist.
I
You
know,
understand?
you're always
I am an
optimist,
optimist.
yeah.
So bright future for Estonia. 10 years and we'll do it. Only 10.
Excellent. Just quickly, because I think there was some of the remarks, the questions there were about also sort of family values, if I understand it correctly. I didn't investigate your private life before this event, but are you all mothers?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. It's it's about family values.
I have one daughter.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I think this is it tonight. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Marilis. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Oksana. Let's have an applause.
Thank you.
And quickly, if I can invite Nele and Relika here on stage as well. Because this is our team. Actually, it's 4 of us. Lena is away today, but as you can see, I'm the only boy here.
I actually wanted to tell a joke as well. If some of you might remember the turmoil that was the last presidential election, there was a joke in the social media that was quite popular that electing the president or the result this time was just like waking up after a one-night stand. It's like, oh, thank God it's a woman. So following Finland and our other neighbors, we do have a female president.
Excellent. So we're going to return in April. I'm not sure yet about the exact topic. It might be about diversity, but we'll confirm that soon. If you want to check our Facebook page, Astonishing Evenings, then obviously all the updates will be published there. We're going to, oh, actually, sorry, I need to mention the sponsors as well, the supporters. Estonian World, obviously, but then actually very important, and the most important is Telliskivi Creative City. Without them, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't do this. And Peter Kenty, who's the creator of that name Astonishing, and also behind the design, and Erinev Tubade Klubi, obviously. And we are going to Pudelbar, aren't we? If you want to, yeah, we're going to have a few drinks, so if anyone wants to join with us over there, then welcome. But thank you everyone for coming, and hopefully see you next time. Good night.
The city in the summertime is alive. The sun will release me with the gold dust in my eyes. A rhythm is rising and a passion still.